Winning Blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this Friday afternoon. Haven't been with you the last couple of days. Not a lot to get to over Wednesday and Thursday, and so I allowed the news to accumulate. Here we are on Friday. Look, there was a whirlwind of news on Monday and Tuesday, a lot of it spurred by the Oakland Raiders. But now things have simmered down. It's Friday. Everything's kind of had a chance to settle. Let's talk about all the news that's transpired over the last 3 days. So we start with Brian Banks. What a story this is. And I'm so happy for him because a lot of people don't get second chances in life. And he shouldn't have to get a second chance because he hasn't done anything wrong. And he was recently exonerated. We know the story. He was exonerated last year, had a tryout with the Seattle Seahawks, did not make their roster, but he intrigued some people. Finally, his dream of making it to the National Football League after having it derailed by a false accusation of rape, now he has finally achieved his dream of making it to the National Football League. He signed a contract with the Atlanta Falcons. Now the thing is, can he stick? Can he make the roster? We'll see, but he's getting an opportunity, and that's all Brian Banks wanted all along, was the opportunity to live out his dream, the one that seemed to be shattered just a few years ago. Now he's in the National Football League, and you can't be happier for a guy who was wrongfully accused of something that he did not do and was sent away to prison, stopping his life, essentially putting it on hold. And luckily enough for him, everything came to the surface. Light was shed on his case. He was exonerated of all wrongful doing, and now he has a shot in the National Football League with the Atlanta Falcons. So let's see if now he can take the next step. He's already got past the initial barrier of getting his foot in the door. He has a contract. He's part of a football team now. Can he now do the next important thing? Make the roster. We'll see, but that's a heartwarming story. Brian Banks now in the National Football League. You look at another story that I've referenced several times on this program. I've even written an article about it on the blog site beforethesnap.com. Victor Cruz wants double digits per year. That's a lot of money. And look, what he's been able to do over the first 2 years of his career, you can't dispute numbers. I mean, the season he had in 2011, that's one for the ages. I mean, to come on off the pace like he did, what did the guy start, about 7 or 8 games? And he totaled over 1,500 yards. I mean, the man amassed well over 1,500 yards, double digits in touchdowns. I mean, he burst onto the NFL landscape. He was not invited to the party. He crashed it, and he went in and took care of business. And so, from that standpoint, Victor Cruz does deserve to be paid. And I'm not disputing that at all. The man needs a new contract. But double digits per season? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Now, what he did in that initial season in 2011, groundbreaking. You won't see many receivers burst onto the scene like that. You may never see it again. Who knows? I mean, to not start a full 16-game slate and do what he did in less than, I don't know if it was less than a half of a year. It was less than 2/3 of a season. I guarantee you that. And for him to do what he did in such a short period of time, he deserves to be paid. He deserves to be compensated. And you knew he couldn't live up to those numbers in 2012. And he didn't. But he still cracked 1,000 yards. He still made some plays for the Giants. He was probably their most consistent receiver. He did drop some balls. There were some lapses in concentration. But for the most part, Victor Cruz was really solid. in 2012, and so he does deserve to be paid, and very handsomely. But double digits per year, and I'm hearing 11 million is what he's really targeting. No, I can't buy that. That's a lot of money. But when you look at a guy like, say, Greg Jennings, got 9 million, about 9.5 per, and we love to look at contracts and look at the numbers. Greg Jennings' deal probably isn't really 9.5, 9 mil per, but for the sake of the argument, let's just say it is. If he can get that kind of money, why can't Victor Cruz get double digits? He's younger. To me, he's probably a little bit more talented. But, this is the kicker. This is the thing. Victor Cruz is more of a slot guy. When's the last time we've seen a slot receiver get broke off that way? Not many slot receivers are paid that handsomely. Greg Jennings is a guy that gets it done out wide. That's the difference. That's why I don't think Victor Cruz is going to get that money. We'll see. But that's a lot of money. That's a huge asking price. No wonder the Giants have not signed this guy to a long-term deal, because the Giants offered him a deal that was up over $7 million reportedly. He turned it down, of course. He would turn it down if he's looking for double digits. And so, I don't know. This could be the last year of Victor Cruz in New York. I highly doubt it, though. I don't think he's leaving. I think he's going to be back in New York. It looks like he's going to play the remainder of his contract out, play that 1 year left, and then he's going to assume the market as an unrestricted free agent. And the Giants are going to have to pony up if they want to keep him, because someone will be willing to pay that price tag. If Victor Cruz has another 1,000-yard receiving season, which would make it 3 in a row, someone's going to pay him double-digit figures. And so maybe that team needs to be the Giants. I don't know. We'll see. But that's a lot of money, though. Look, a slot guy, that would be unprecedented, because slot guys don't get paid like that in the National Football League. Simple as that. You need not look any further than Danny Amendola and Wes Welker. Those are probably the two preeminent slot receivers in the league right now, and neither one of them are even close to $10 million per season. Let's leave it at that. So we move on to another topic, and this one is a farewell. This one is a so long, and this man deserves a standing ovation. Jason Hanson, the Detroit Lions field goal kicker for the last 2 decades. 21 seasons for Jason Hanson. He's hanging them up. And the funny part about this is the man can still kick field goals. Jason Hanson could start for probably half of the teams in the National Football League right now. This man was a timeless wonder. And what more can I say? I applaud the career. He's going to go into that Detroit Lions Ring of Fame, and he deserves it. And you can't get a better guy, a more classy guy than Jason Hanson. And I guess he just was ready to go. I mean, the Lions were looking for guys to come in and compete. And he probably just said, at this point in my career, where I'm at right now, I don't feel like going through this. Just get another kicker. I'm done. But Hanson was extremely solid for the Lions in the 2012 season. He probably could have kicked another 2 or 3 seasons if he liked. I mean, the guy can get it done. But that's just mind-boggling. 21 years in the league. I mean, this guy played with Barry Sanders. Who else can say that in the league? Who else can say, hey, I played against Barry Sanders? Or, in his case, I played with Barry Sanders. And not just at the tail end of his career. He played with Barry Sanders when he was in the prime of his career. He played with Barry Sanders when Barry Sanders was a young pup in the league. So, that is astonishing. Jason Hanson retires from the league after 21 years of service for the Detroit Lions. I tip my imaginary cap to you, sir. What a career it was. Quickly want to gloss over a couple of signings, a few releases, and then we'll move on. The Redskins signed 2 quarterbacks. Rex Grossman is back in the fold in Washington, and they also signed Pat White. Talked about this on the Redskins report, and I basically said that, look, anyone that's reading too much into this, don't. Pat White is simply on the roster because they need a quarterback to run the read option while Robert Griffin III is out. They need someone to give them that look so they can execute more of the offense and give their defense a look, because I feel like the NFL is a copycat league. And because the Redskins with Robert Griffin III, the Seahawks with Russell Wilson, and the 49ers with Colin Kaepernick had so much success running read option, other teams around the league are going to run their form, are going to run their take on the read option. And so you got to have your defense prepared to stop it. And so Pat White is going to help in that regard, and he's going to give the Redskins the ability to see what the offense looks like as they continue to refine, retool their rendition of the read option. So we'll see how that goes, but don't read too much into it. Kirk Cousins is still your backup in Washington. Robert Griffin III is still your starter in Washington. Nothing has changed. In a pinch, Rex Grossman would be your third quarterback, and Pat White would still be the odd man out. So don't read too much into that, but still a nice signing for the Redskins. And they got 3 quarterbacks now that are healthy, one not, of course, Robert Griffin III being the one that's not. And so every camp needs at least 4 arms. And with the 90-man extension now of these rosters, you might even need 5 camp arms in most instances. And so these guys will all be in the mix in Washington come training camp. So now you look at a guy that's been released and you ask yourself, why didn't this happen sooner? Talking about Rolando McClain being released from the Oakland Raiders roster. This was one that I knew was coming. If you're a Raiders fan, you knew this was coming. If you've been watching this situation closely, you knew this was coming. So why did it take so long? Who knows? I don't know what the thinking was here. I thought that the Raiders were going to do one of 2 things. A, they were just going to cut him loose and get that money from under the cap. Or B, they were going to hold on to Rolando McClain for as long as they could to punish him and not allow him to jump onto another team because of how bad of a malcontent he's been in Oakland. They've had to suspend him. He's had charges and run-ins with the law, brandishing weapons, and just an assortment of bonehead moves by Rolando McClain in Oakland. And so I thought they were going to make him pay for not being a model citizen in Oakland. You draft this guy with a top 10 pick. You make him the 8th overall selection in the 2010 draft. You expect him to play well. You expect him to be a guy that can be a leader in the locker room. He was none of that. And so I felt like they were going to make him pay for being a disturbance in that locker room. I was wrong. They cut him loose on a random day in April. Maybe he was slated to earn a bonus coming up here shortly, and that was the reason for the release. Maybe they couldn't release him to a certain day, and then it wouldn't count against the cap. I don't know. All I know is now he's no longer a Raider, and he's going to find work in this league because he's not a prototypical 4-3 linebacker, which is what the Raiders had him playing in, a 4-3 scheme. He's a guy that needs to be hidden inside in a 3-4 defense. You put him in the middle of a 3-4 defense, he can be a thumper in the middle of your 3-4 defense, much like he was at Alabama. You stick him in a 4-3 defense, now you got problems because now he has to play in space. That's not his strong suit. You stick him in the middle, in the trash, in the traffic, you let him sort through the garbage and get to the running back. That's what he does well. And some team is going to go seek him out and give him work. And I think if it's a 3-4 defense, which most of the league is, I think he'll flourish in that capacity. And that's one of the things that really annoys me about the NFL is you got to draft a guy that fits the scheme. And I know you want players to be scheme diverse and be able to play in any scheme, 4-3, 3-4, 4-6, nickel, dime. It doesn't matter. You want them to be able to be versatile. I understand that, but at the same time, the guy flourished in college, and which is the reason you fell in love with him and wanted to draft him, at a certain position, playing a certain technique in a certain defense. And if you get him and you tell him, hey, forget about everything you did in college. This is what we want you to do here. It's different. Like Glenn Dorsey, for instance, in Kansas City. The guy was a 4-3 defensive tackle in college at LSU. The Chiefs draft him and say, hey, we want you to play in this 3-4 defense. Forget about everything you did at LSU. We want you to play in our 3-4 defense. And he's never really materialized. He's never been that dominant force that he looked like in college. Go figure. That's because you're asking this man to play a separate technique, a totally different technique from which he played in college. You're asking him to line up differently. You're asking him to do different things that he's simply unfamiliar with. And it takes a while to adjust, and maybe you never make the full adjustment. Who knows? But same thing with Rolando McClain. It never really worked out at Oakland because he was playing a different position. He was still playing middle linebacker, but it wasn't in a 3-4 defense. It was in a 4-3 defense. And your responsibilities change when you play in a different scheme. Simple as that. So Rolando McClain, now a free agent, someone's going to pick him up and they're going to put him to use. He's a relatively young guy. There's a lot of tread left on those tires. And I actually think the man can play some football if he can keep his head screwed on tight enough, stay out of trouble off the field, mentally get his focus on the football field. I think Rolando McClain can help someone at the middle linebacker position in a 3-4 defense. So that's a touchdown. Go ahead. Throw it up. I'm going to tack on this quick extra point. The preseason schedules were released this week. And guess what? I don't care. I don't care. Some people get excited about the preseason. I don't. I could care less who the Redskins play. I could care less who the Tennessee Titans play. I could care less who the Minnesota Vikings play. I could care less who the Buffalo Bills play. I don't care about the preseason. I don't care. Because it has no bearing on the regular season. You could lose all 4 of your preseason games by a total of 70 points. Who cares? Now, you want to look good. You want to perform well. Your starters could come out and be sharp, score a touchdown, and they're out of the game. And your backups and reserves could give up 40 points in every single preseason game. Who cares? Who cares? I don't. The coaching staff does because they want all their players to perform well. But I don't. I don't care if the Redskins have the Bears in week 1 and then they have a magical matchup in week 3 against Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts like they did a year ago. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if the Chiefs and the Jaguars are matching up against each other and the 2 first draft picks in this year's draft are squaring off against each other. And it could happen. The Chiefs could take a tackle, the Jaguars could take a defensive end, and they could actually be squared off against each other in the preseason. I don't care. I don't care about the preseason. Simple as that. All the preseason is for me is tuning up the players, getting everybody back into football shape, because it's one thing when you hit your own guys and you're getting into scrums, scrimmaging your own players against people on your own roster. That's one thing to actually go out against other teams and against other competition, actually go out and try to execute what you've been working on in training camp. That's a totally separate issue, and you need the preseason for that. But as a fan, it makes me not one bit of difference. As a fan, the preseason allows me to mentally stimulate myself and get back into football mode. That's all the preseason does for me. It's a tune-up, a precursor to the regular season. One more thing, and then we're out of here. I want to touch on this. Mike Mayock and some of the other guys have been ripped to shreds and really criticized in the media for going to town on this quarterback class. Stop it. That's nonsense. You know how I feel about Mike Mayock first and foremost. I think the guy is a genius. I think the guy gets it, especially when it comes to this time of the season. I mean, the guy knows his college football. He's great at evaluating talent. And he tells it like it is. That's the thing I love about him the most. Daniel Jeremiah, I love that guy as well because they don't sugarcoat it. Nothing. You get it straight, no chaser. This is what it is. I like this guy. Here's why. I don't like this guy. Here's why. Simple as that. All they're doing is what I do, is what you do. They see it with their own eyes. And I say this all the time, one of my favorite sayings. And of course, I made it up. That's why it's my favorite. But look, the fact of the matter is, your voice and words, they're loud. And they can be powerful. Your words are powerful. But the eyes don't lie. And that's how I feel. Words are powerful. But the eyes, they don't lie. You know what you see. And no one can tell you what you see. Someone can tell you, hey, I saw this. And when things are passed down by word of mouth, sometimes things get lost in translation. But when you see it with your own eyes, no one can tell you what you did or didn't see. You know what you saw. And Mike Mayock, Daniel Jeremiah, and all these guys out there that talk about these players coming out into the draft and give their analysis, all they're doing is trusting their eyes. That's all they're doing. They're giving analysis off of the evaluation that they've made, trusting their eyes. That's it. And you can't be mad at that. When a guy is simply taking what he's seen on film with his own two eyes, writing down notes, and then spitting them back out to you, you can't be mad at the evaluation that he has and the analysis that he's given. And all it is an opinion. And if you don't like it, fine. You don't have to agree with his opinion. You don't have to agree with my opinions. But guess what? They're my opinions. It's what I saw. It's what I've seen. And so this is the way I feel because of what I've seen. And so I don't fault them for anything. And just like this mock draft that I'm doing right now, I'm going to be wrong. Who likes to be wrong? No one wants to be wrong. I'll be the first to tell you, I love being right. Nothing makes me happier than saying, hey, I was right. Pat on the back. I love patting myself on the back. I love to be right. Who doesn't? Everyone likes to be right. But when you get it wrong, it's okay. Because you're going to get things wrong. I get things wrong all the time. And I'll be the first to tell you when I get it wrong. Because in what we do, breaking down guys and analyzing situations and, hey, this guy's not going to be good or this guy isn't good or I don't think this guy's going to be really good. Making projections, when you do that, you're going to be right sometimes, you're going to be wrong. Somewhere in between, reality falls. And so you don't know how it's going to turn out. All you can do is watch the film, watch the tape on these guys, make an analysis, give your projections, and move on. And once you make a projection, once you give your analysis, don't waver on it. Don't let anyone tell you what you feel. If you think this guy's going to stink and be a bust, by all means, say it. And it's that guy's job to prove you wrong. If he's listening to all the naysayers and allowing it to affect him mentally, then he's not strong enough to play in the National Football League anyway. And that's going to do it for this edition of In the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me here today on the program. We got to a lot, and it was fun. And so there's many ways to contact or view the show. Of course, there's Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Like me on Facebook. There's the Twitter page. At In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle. Follow me on Twitter. There's YouTube. Louis T is the page. Please subscribe to the page if you haven't already done so. I'm about to get into the draft on Monday. We start draft analysis here on this program on Monday. I'll be releasing my mock draft on Monday, the first. I'm not a guy that likes to change my mock 5 and 6 times. But if something catastrophic does occur between now and the draft, then yes, I will have to make alterations to it. But for the most part, the one mock draft that I release is probably going to be the same one that you'll see throughout the rest of this process. I'm not a guy that has a mock 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, because for the most part, a lot of these pro days have already taken place, the ones that matter at least. And so there's no need to send a guy up your board or send a guy down your board. You can help yourself. You can hurt yourself. Still, just like we saw a couple years ago when the cornerback Alfonso Dennard from Nebraska got arrested literally 2 days before the draft. Yeah, you got to change your mock if this guy was in your top 20 because he's not going to be drafted in the first round after that, even though he wasn't a first round pick. I'm just using him as an example. If something like that were to occur, yeah, you have to change it. But I'm going to release my mock on Monday, and we're going to start covering all the teams in the National Football League on this program for the draft starting Monday. So stay tuned. So if you have not subscribed to the page, please do so you don't miss out on any of the wall-to-wall coverage that will be happening on this show for the National Football League. So, also there's the inbox. In the lab room at gmail.com is the inbox. Please feel free to drop something in the inbox. And that's it. I also do a blog on the site beforethesnap.com. Check out the blog. I write for the NFC East. I am the NFC East contributor on that site. So check it out. We do podcasts. We write articles. There are a lot of talented writers besides myself on that site. So check it out. Beforethesnap.com. And that's going to do it for me here on this program. Want to see you back here, same time, same place. And as always, have a good one. Take care this weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Want to see you back here on Monday when we start talking NFL 2013 draft.